Hello, welcome to the online sommeliers course. This is lesson number 2, History of Wine, part 1. Part 1 because we divide history of wine into three parts. It's an ancient history, the Middle Age history, and the modern history of wine. When we talk about history of wine, the first question always is how old is the wine? Well, apparently we don't know that precisely because you see, for the difference of the other beverages which are man-made, wine is a natural product. Okay, so nobody invented it. It's a nature that makes the wine. Um, what is the process of making the wine? Well, apparently there is a we have the grape wines, the blends. This one is just flowering. So soon we will have a nice grape clusters there. And the yeast. So when grapes uh, are squeezed, or when grapes start to crush, then juice start to run out of the grapes. And since yeast is all around us, and especially on the fruits and the grapes itself, and we will talk about that later on when we talk about the vinification or the winemaking, we'll talk about that much more. However, uh, when the juice start to run, then yeast start feeding on the sugar, creating the alcohol, uh, CO2, and the temperature. So, although we don't know really exactly how old wine might be, we do have evidence of the human-controlled winemaking, and those evidences come from the region of Caucasia, which is actually Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and part of those areas, and also Turkey below the Mount Ararat. And all of that is actually was happening around 6,000 years ago. So 4,000 years BC. Uh, the story says, one of many stories, of course, that shepherds, which were taking cattle up to the Mount Ararat, um, they were taking grapes with them, and when they were walking and maybe riding horses in those baskets, the grapes were squeezing on each other and then releasing the juice. And when shepherds drank the juice, they actually start to feel quite well and relaxed, and of course, maybe even a little tipsy. And that's how they started to produce the wine. How we know uh, all of that happened at that area and at that time? Well, archaeologists, they found some vessels which had the tartarites, which are salts of the tartaric acid, which is basic acid in the wine, and with the infrared technique of determining the age of those crystals, they found out that it was uh, like 6,000 years ago. Now, they also found evidence that people at those areas were making white and the red wines. So, which means that they already developed technique of maceration, which means extracting the color from the um, from the grape skin. So, as I said before, the first evidence of the controlled winemaking come from a region of Caucasia, which is actually this part of Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Mesopotamia, which is today's Iran, all right, and a part of Turkey. So that's this region. Well, at that time, actually, the wine started to migrate. All right, so somewhere around 35 BC, wine started to migrate from regional Caucasia down to the Egypt, passing Persia, of course, and to the Phoenicia, which is part of Syria, today's Syria and Israel. So this part here of the Mediterranean basin. So, what is interesting, beside obviously winemaking, even the grape varieties which people were making wine from, and that belong to the family of Vitis vinifera, were also moved to these regions. So in Egypt, wine become a cult. Obviously, well, it's normal because at that time the wine was the only beverage that contained alcohol, and drinking alcohol, obviously, you do relax a little bit, and people loved it, and that's why wine become so popular and so popular throughout the history. And anyway, the wine was the only drink that was safe to drink, and that proved, especially the Middle Ages with the plague and the other diseases that were introduced to the people. However, the main reason, as I said, that wine becomes so popular was the alcohol. Juice was not really so interesting to drink. So in Egypt, you could find a lot of paintings on the walls about the harvest, winemaking, and some other things related to the wine. Okay, around 3000 to 2000 BC, wine spread actually came into the Greece. In Greece, wine really become a big cult, and wine even got its god called Dionysius. But beside the wine god, the wine uh, got a very special place in the society. So people even invented the game with the wine that was called Kotabos. Well, the game was all about uh, uh, just kind of skill to hit the empty plate with the wine from Kylix. Well, I will explain. So you had a kind of post, all right, and at the top of the post they would put a plate with the food on it, rest of the food or empty plate, doesn't matter. So from the distance, the person would try to hit this plate with the wine that was in the kylix, and kylix was the vessel actually that people were drinking wine from. All right. So although the game is very simple, at that time there were even trainers and the coaches of Kotabos, so you can imagine how bored they were. Anyway, at that time, obviously due to quite low quality of the wine, wine was mixed with the water and even the seawater and even some spices. And only people who were drinking the pure wine were considered a savage at that time. Uh, well, in the in around uh, 1000 BC, wine spread to the rest of the North Africa. Okay, so Libya, Tunisia, Algeria. Okay, where obviously we do have winemaking even today. But obviously, due to later on around 600 AD, wine was forbidden because Muhammad said that wine is the drink that Muslims should enjoy in the heaven. So that's why the winemaking stopped there for quite a long time. But anyway, at the same time, wine also came into the Sicily, okay, and it came from the both sides, okay, from the Greece uh, and the Egypt, and also to Italy. You see, actually here we have a region that is called Campania, all right, and there is a town, Naples now, and there is a Mount Vesuvius, which is an active volcano, uh, and that area was called Enotria, the land of wine. All right, uh, in uh, uh, in Pompeii, which was unfortunately covered with the dust from the Mount Vesuvius. Uh, by some data, some evidence, there were like a few thousand people living there. Uh, there were like 200 wine shops. So that was very interesting area. Okay, so uh, around 500 BC, wine spread into the Spain, which is here, Portugal, which is on the other side here, and France. Now, the somebody think that Phoenicians spread the wine into the Spain, while the Italians, actually the Roman Empire, because Roman Empire obviously conquered a huge part of the Europe. All right, so this is not only that. This was something that was called West Roman Empire, and this is something that was called East Roman Empire. So from Italy, wine spread into the Balkans and the East Roman Empire, also from the Greece, and from Italy, what is today called Italia, wine spread into the France, okay, and into the Germany and Austria, so all around place. However, uh, the wine was spreading by the river, by the riverways. Why is that? Well, you see, Roman soldiers were getting daily portion of the wine because the wine was considered as a drink that gives you power. So every soldier had to get the legionnaires had to get the daily portion of wine, and since Roman Empire were occupying a lot of territories, obviously they were bringing wines with them. But then they realized obviously the easiest way to carry the wine is with some ships going on the river. But then they realized that it's much easier to plant the grapes along the ways where they're going, and also into the areas that they occupied. And it was easier, obviously, to make wine than to carry the wine in the amphoras or some other vessels which were really fragile. So after that, let's say in the new era, uh, the wine spread exactly all over the Europe and even into the Great Britain. Although Great Britain is not really fantastic area for making some wines, except the sparkling wines that we really love. And later on, when we talk about sparkling wines, you would understand why. Even those cold regions are very suitable for that. However, uh, the wine spread, as I said, even into those north part. So this is the migration and the ancient history of wine. Obviously, ancient history of wine, we talk about the time before the Jesus Christ, the new era, but around uh, as I said, around 100 years AD, almost all areas around the uh, Italy was already full with wines. Obviously, later on, especially with the beginning of the Christianity, the wine started to have extremely important role in the humans' culture and the practices that they did because um of the Christianity that used the wine as a blood of the Jesus Christ, because Jesus said, "Drink from this. This is my blood." So this was the first part of the lesson number 2, history of wine. So until the next lesson, stay healthy, enjoy yourself, and let's wine be with you.